It's time to put my Moneyball where my mouth is. Welcome to the Moneyball Clinic. I took the top 30 leagues, simulated them in full detail, then smashed it all together to create an aggregated database. This will be the baseline from which I'll recommend signings at a variety of levels and budgets. We made minor changes at Wolves, Chelsea and Frankfurt, completely ripped things apart at Chelsea and Fenerbahce. We've theorised on the best possible 11. But there's one thing we haven't done yet. Build an entire squad on a budget from scratch. So let me introduce AC Moneyball, a creator club side who, thanks to your votes, have taken the place of Hellas Verona in Serie A. We're in Serie A because it's a league with a lot of tactical variety. 3-5-2s, 4-3-3s, 4-2-3-1s, different 3-5-2s, 3-4-3s, and even a 4-4-2 diamond. It should be enough to keep us on our toes. We've relocated to Pisa for exceptionally contrived reasons. Moneyball involves numbers, so does mathematics. Fibonacci, he of the spirally numbers, is a famous Italian mathematician from Pisa. That has no bearing on anything that will follow, but now you know. Now this would usually be the point where I'd assess the squad, but there is no squad to speak of. Building from scratch means we have full tactical freedom, and that means I get to implement Musterball. Now, at the risk of sounding pretentious, Musterball is less a tactic, more a concept. There are no formations, only one role is hard set. Many instructions will be reactive to the opposition. There are, however, some key principles. Musterball is my take on tiki-taka. It's short passing, high tempo, cautious mentality. We look to circulate the ball quickly, but safely. Keep the opposition moving. In attacking areas, we are more expressive to give our front line the freedom to create. We counter-press because it's the best time to win back the ball. Everything else is adaptive. Our formation, whether we want to focus our passing in specific areas, where we deploy our defensive line and levels of intensity. They'll all be dependent on who we are playing. But whilst those elements will be malleable, the functions we expect players to perform can be defined. We can broadly split the team into 2 units, 5 in the attacking unit, 6, including the goalkeeper, in the defensive unit. Players might move between units depending on whether we are in or out of possession. Let's talk about out of possession. The function expected of all players in the attacking unit is to harass the opposition. We'll be looking at pressures attempted for these players. In the defensive unit, the focus is on sweeping up loose balls. We'll be looking at possession 1 for these players, but there are some further requirements. Defensive midfielders are expected to win 75% of their tackles, fullbacks 78%, centre-backs 80%, and 70% for headers. The goalkeeper is expected to have positive XG prevented. In possession, our defensive unit will most likely form a 2-3 build-up structure. The priority here is safety. We'll be looking at pass completion above 90% for the 2, 88% for the 3. We will also be looking at possession lost. Which brings us players like Lecce's Federico Basquerotto. 75.7% headers won is sensational. 80.5% tackles won and 91.3% pass completion ain't too shabby either. And his possession metrics make for equally pretty viewing. A rock at the heart of our defence. Or Spezia's Salvatore Esposito. He needs no introduction, but I'm gonna anyway. 95th percentile for possession won, 99th for possession lost. You'd think that would come at the cost of creativity. Wrong. 95th percentile for expected assists too. In our attacking unit, we don't have any universal metrics. We want a striker who is a bully, wins his headers, annoys defenders, scores goals. Someone like Pisa's Stefano Morio. 90th percentile for goals, 42.1% headers won. He's a 1 in 5 goal scorer throughout his career, but amazing in the simulations. Either alongside him, or more likely split out on the wing, we want a dribbly boy. Someone who can beat his man and whip in a cross, but also be a secondary goal scorer. Enter Augsburg's Ruben Vargas. 3.50 dribbles per 90. In only the 25th percentile for goals, but also only 35th for shots. He was in the 50th percentile for passes completed, suggesting he's involved deeper at Augsburg. I'm confident that in a more attacking role, we can get the output we desire. Then there is the Maverick, the only guaranteed role in the tactic, a trequartista, somewhere in the hole. A player who dribbles, assists, scores, and has fun. Someone like Olimpio Morichan. The Ankaraguchi winger has that sexy tries-trick straight, and the performance is to boot. 90th percentile for expected assists, 60th for dribbles, 55th for goals. The remainder of the front five are really only there to provide the graft behind our main trio. Pressures will be the most important metric, and they just need to be able to contribute in one other area. We've got players like Brescia's Dimitri Bissoli, who's great at getting into shooting positions and scoring goals, or Südtirole's Fabian Tate, who's in the 85th percentile for expected assists and dribbles. Both are players with a lot of positional flexibility, which will be key as it allows us to use multiple formations. Before I reveal the rest of the squad, let's talk about how Create a Club works. You start a save in exactly the same way, just choosing Create a Club instead of Career. The same process for setting active leagues and database settings. Once you get to the Pick Your Team stage, you are now picking a team to replace. Each team has a squad budget. I do not know the exact formula, but it is based on players' market value and remaining contract. Subsequently, bigger teams have bigger budgets. Serie A has a combined squad budget of nearly €5.5 billion, or on average 270 million. You all voted to give me Hellas Verona, the team with the lowest squad budget, at 87 million, less than a third of the average. Thanks. We've cleared out the squad of all players with a budget value. This has removed the entire first team squad and a number of promising youngsters. We do still have more than enough players on the books, however, for our youth squad. There will be no players considered as homegrown at this new club. That limits us to a maximum first team squad of 21 players, at least 8 of which must be homegrown in Italy, and no more than 2 non-EU players. There are a couple of additional rules I've added. I cannot sign a player I've managed in FM24, whether that be a previous transfer or a player I've inherited. A maximum of 1 player with a budget value over €10 million, and, realistically, the player should be willing to join a club of Hellas Verona's stature. So, without further ado, let's introduce the remainder of the squad. In budget value order, ascending. Andrea Barbaros, a defensive midfielder from Serie B's Pisa. 80th percentile for possession won, 75th for possession lost, and an 89.6% pass success rate. A great set of traits to be a tempo setter. Bordeaux's Malcolm Bekele next, a centre-back or right-back. Wins 71.1% of his headers, 82% of his tackles, and 90.5% pass completion. Possession won and lost metrics skewed by playing between positions. Filippo Mazzori is our youngest pickup, a right-back from Sassuolo. Wins 79.2% of his tackles, completes 90.1% of his passes. 75th percentile for possession won, 50th for possession lost. A developmental prospect. Alberto Brignoli is our number 1, arriving from Panathinaikos. 0.24 XG prevented, in the 60th percentile for possession won and 70th percentile for possession lost. A dependable sweeper keeper. Next, Alessandro Arena, our third and final player stolen from neighbours Pisa. 55th percentile for pressures, 60th for goals, 65th for expected assists. He can potentially fill a number of different positions and functions for us. Spezia Simone Bastoni has a name that rhymes. Do I need any other reason? Okay then, 80th percentile for possession won, 65th for pressures, he can fit either defensive unit. 70th percentile for dribbles. Another Sassuolo defender, this time Gianmarco Ferrari. Wins 72.4% of his headers, 83.6% of his tackles, completes 91.3% of his passes. A pretty good turnover differential too. Palermo's Mirko Pigliacelli is our backup keeper, despite having a higher budget value than Brignoli. 70th percentile for possession lost is good, as is positive XG prevented. He has a hidden talent though, one to be revealed a little later. Next, my top recommendation from the left backs video, Sturm Graz's David Schnegg. He does everything but dribble and score, and those two aren't things I particularly want from my fullbacks anyway. Frosinoni's Giuseppe Casso is a little bit of a wild card. In only the 45th percentile for dribbles and 50th percentile for goals, not the best dribbly boy, but the best affordable Italian dribbly boy. From Como, Federico Barba, a centre-back or left-back, 81.6% tackles won, 91.4% pass completion. 69.4% headers won is just below what I wanted, but 90th percentile for possession won, 99th for possession lost, more than make up for it. Another versatile piece, Augsburg's Fredrik Jensen. Scores, assists, dribbles, pressures. All achieved in a top 5 league. Doesn't win possession, but doesn't need to. Monza's Patrick Curia is an odd one. His metrics look awful because it's impossible to pin him down to one position. Sometimes a winger, sometimes a fullback, sometimes a central midfielder. 13.37 pressures is the highest in the team, 2.99 dribbles the second highest. He's worth it. Last but not least, a player who we've passed on in multiple Moneyball clinics, Panathinaikos' Fotis Giannidis. 60th percentile for dribbles, 65th for headers won, 70th for goals, 90th for expected assists. I can't wait to see how he gets on. And that is the squad, a total balance value of just 66 million euros and 350k per week on wages. It has not been driven purely on statistics alone though. I mentioned earlier that Pigliacelli had a hidden talent. That is the ability to speak Romanian. Now, I'm not one to disparage others' ability to speak multiple languages. I speak just one, and struggle at that. Italians, in the game at least, are equally monolingual. Pigliacelli is one of only 3 who speak another language. Tate speaks German. Brignoli speaks Greek and a little Spanish. That impacted my decisions when bringing in non-Italian players. Pigliacelli is the go-between for Morichan, who alongside Ruben Vargas speaks French. They can make Bekele feel welcome. In fact, thank God for Vargas and the many Swiss cantons. Him and Tate can speak German to Schnegg and Jensen. All of these non-Italian players speak basic English. All except Giannidis, but he can find solace in former Panathinaikos teammate Brignoli. Now, it's all good and well creating a web of harmony when no player should be without friends, but with only 8 players coming from a top 5 league, have we sacrificed quality? We have flexibility in abundance, but do we lack specialists? I mean, I think we've done a good job, but the media seems less enthusiastic. The challenge is survival. To find out how we get on, join me on Twitch. Starting this Monday, September the 30th, I'll be streaming the AC Moneyball series, every Monday and Thursday at 7 PM British summertime. I'd love to see you there, but please don't feel obliged. There will still be weekly releases here on YouTube. See you next time.